Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful day. And I hope everyone has had a great weekend out there so far, as it pretty much comes to an end. And we're about to head off into our work week. I'm here to give you an update on the tropics. I know I've not made a video for you folks, a forecast video, since Wednesday night. I went live with you guys. I chased Hurricane Helene Thursday into Friday. Thank you for the people who supported that, who tuned in. That was definitely an experimental type thing. I did not anticipate to go live for that long. I didn't think I would have internet to really support a live feed like that, but it worked out. So I appreciate y'all engaging. And it was cool just to have conversation with you guys on the fly. Me and Gerald went live on his video, but I don't want to get too deep into that. Stay tuned for the very end of the video. I'm just going to talk to you guys from the heart, speak on some things about Helene. Helene definitely impacted me differently than any other storm has. There was something about Helene that was just truly negative, I guess is the right word for it. Don't want to really, the storm was evil. It took people's lives. It did so much damage, but just want to speak to you about a couple things, and I don't want to clog up the intro doing that. So stay tuned for the end of the video, and I'm just going to speak with you guys a little bit on that. But here to give you an update on the tropics, there's a big question out there. I'm hearing it from my neighbors, my friends, my family, people on social media. The big question is there another storm coming? In fact, people just flat out think there's another storm coming. So we're gonna kind of answer those questions for you guys and help you folks get an idea of what we're seeing out here and maybe why everybody is asking that question to death and have been over the last couple of days throughout the weekend. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. And I swear I will get caught up with all the comments tomorrow afternoon for you folks. I am several days behind, so I'll get caught up with everything, the prayer requests, the comments, everything for you folks. So let's get going here. So the satellite is down. Hurricane Helene just did the flat out number. Now, I'm not saying it was directly impacted by Hurricane Helene, but we can't really look at the satellite out here. So I can't really actually show you these storm systems and how active it truly is. But what we can show you is the latest from the National Hurricane Center, pretty much the 8 p.m. update. So it's the latest info that we have. So Helene, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. All right, so we got Isaac up here. Okay, Isaac formed like right after Helene did, like a couple days after, but it was always going to be a fish storm. Isaac was a pretty strong hurricane at one point, but it's a tropical storm way up here in the Atlantic subtropics, and it's just not bothering anybody. Okay, and now we got Joyce. Joyce has not been bothering anybody either. Tropical storm Joyce, we're just taking names left and right. The tropics is very active. I will say that. That is definitely truthful. Very, very active. Okay, it's like a light switch. All of a sudden, it said, hey, you wanted this. I'm not saying anybody wanted it, but, everybody was forecasting this hyperactive season. Okay, well, here it is. And the Atlantic is basically out here showing it now. Okay, and now we have Tropical Depression 12. Okay, this is likely going to be Kirk, the K name. And Kirk has an opportunity to become a powerful hurricane. But there's also a high probability that soon to be Kirk, which is Tropical Depression 12, is going to just be a fish storm and turn out to sea. And now we got a bump up from a 30% to a 50% chance now of something developing way out here in the eastern Atlantic. It's a pretty low latitude tropical wave too. This one we need to watch. It's way out here. But this has the potential to be maybe Leslie. I definitely need to look at how to pronounce that, because there's definitely probably a certain way. Leslie or Leslie. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. Leslie. I'll have it right by the time we get to the morning video. Folks, I am everywhere, and I'll talk about that more at the end of the video. But that is the next name, the L name. And then after that, you got Milton. Okay, will this become Milton? Will this become Leslie? Not quite sure. But I have more high confidence that this will develop eventually than this. But this storm right here, and it's not a storm really right now. It's not anything but an area of interest. Okay. This is the one that sparked a lot of chatter out there about another storm coming. This right here. This is area of interest that, and I can't really show you it because unfortunately we don't really have satellite up. I'm going to show you a version of the satellite we can look at, but it's not going to show much. But deep down here in the Caribbean, there's a wave that we need to watch. It has a 50-50 shot, basically to develop sometime in the next 7 days in this orange area. This is what has sparked conversation about another storm riding up through the Gulf. And hitting the Gulf coastline, the Gulf states, and the southeast again. Okay, there was some model runs over the last couple days that showed big hurricanes hitting the Gulf Coast again. Okay, so we're going to go over all the latest model runs and show you what they're showing this evening. Okay, but I do want to, speak briefly on what is going to be Kirk. It'll most likely be Tropical Storm Kirk, maybe sometime tonight, maybe in the next update. But we most likely will have Tropical Storm Kirk tomorrow. And check how powerful this system gets. We got a Category 1 Hurricane Kirk, more than likely, sometime by Wednesday. And let's just fast forward. By the time we get into Friday afternoon, they are already forecasting a Category 3 major hurricane, 2 p.m. Friday. So I think that this is going to be one of your classic, powerful, out-to-sea powerhouse hurricanes way out in the Atlantic that ultimately looks like, as you can tell, kind of a zoomed-out look is going to turn and go out to sea. This is Tropical Storm Joyce, but of course, this is where it's at right now. What's soon to be Tropical Storm Kirk is over here. And this looks like your classic precursor look of a major tropical system. That's our area of interest right here. As you can tell, it don't look like much except just clouds and some showers and storms. But this is coming from the exact same area, just about. Not exact, but pretty much the same roundabout area that Helene came from. Okay, here's another traditional look at Kirk. M stands for major. By the time we get to the end of this week, we're going to have a big hurricane out here. I still think Bermuda definitely needs to watch this. So, take a look at a model guidance, and we're just going to kind of focus on these areas of interest out in the Atlantic first, and then we're going to zoom into our area of interest that is closer to home in the Caribbean. This is Joyce right here. This is soon to be Kirk. Is this Leslie, or Milton? We got to figure that one out. Okay, now we keep moving here. In fact, I'm going to do something right here on the fly. Might as well, right? Leslie. It's pronounced Leslie, not Leslie. Leslie. Obviously, I never heard it be pronounced the other way, so it's pronounced Leslie. So now that we're figure that one out, we move forward here. Joyce is going to weaken into a depression. Here comes Kirk, soon to be Kirk. All right, watch how that millibar drops, turns into a powerful hurricane. I mean, the GFS says it's a major hurricane just about by Wednesday. Okay, and then it just sits there, spins around very slow. Just be careful about this one. A lot of people are going to probably try to spook people with this, but all indications are pointing as of now that this is going to turn out to sea. But look at this one right behind it. This is the one that has, let's look at this, that has a 50% chance to develop sometime in the next 7 days. That's this right here. Check out how it's already becoming a hurricane on the latest GFS by the time we get into this weekend. Okay, now what's going to be major Hurricane Kirk more than likely Sunday morning is already turning out to sea. This will likely be Leslie unless something develops. This is either going to be Leslie or Milton. Either one, no doubt. More than likely, at least. But it looks like that's turning out to sea too. So both of them are kind of heading on out to sea. Don't bother a soul except the fishes out in the ocean, on the surface of the ocean. Okay, same thing with the Euro. Now the Euro, it shows the same thing with Kirk. It develops it soon to be Kirk. Don't want to call it, too soon. And we get into October 2nd, it strengthens it a lot slower than the GFS, but it looks like it's turning what will be Kirk out to sea. But it takes that 50-50 shot of development area of interest down here, and it takes it more zonal. It doesn't turn it out to sea, stays weaker. Therefore, I think that it just kind of takes more of the east to west path instead. And, we get 7-8 days out. We take it all the way to 10 days out. And all of a sudden, the Euro shows a Category 2-3 hurricane 10 days from now getting very close to the Lesser and Greater Antilles. So that's something to watch. Very active as we enter October over the next couple of days. Okay. Now, what about this area that everybody's saying there's another storm coming? Okay. A couple runs back, it was showing these hurricanes making landfall on the Gulf Coast. I'm not even going to go back and show you all those runs because those are past runs. These are the current runs, and there's been an obvious trend to weaker solutions with this. Okay, so kind of keep your eye down here. You see blobs of green. Pops off an L here. All of a sudden, Wednesday morning, we got, GFS says, hey, we got a little weak tropical system down here. And then we get into Friday morning. We still got this area of unsettled weather. In fact, I'm going to switch it to the southeast frame here. Okay, we got this area of unsettled weather, a low pressure, just about exactly where Helene was. And we keep this going. Tries to strengthen it this coming Saturday morning, but it's just a weak little tropical storm, if that. Makes landfall right into the west coast of Florida on this particular run. Dumps a lot of rain over Florida. Okay, and then it gets back off the east coast of Florida. Does it try to strengthen? And it just kind of heads on out. Goes back out in the Atlantic. Okay? So that's the latest GFS. That's not, I will say this, to back up what some people are saying about another storm coming. There's something there. A major hurricane, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Okay, what about the European run? All right. Same thing, just kind of a blob of energy down here, not a whole lot of anything. A lot of unsettled weather. That unsettled weather eventually kind of gets into the Gulf. So if we kind of flip it and look at the southeast frame here and now, you're seeing just a lot of unsettled weather in the Gulf, a lot of green areas of yellow. Just tells us just a lot of tropical moisture chilling in the Gulf of Mexico. Does anything consolidate form? Do you get an L as in a low pressure pop up? Well, you do. You're starting to get it down here. And, as we start to get about a week from today, literally next Sunday evening, you're getting kind of somewhat of a stronger low pressure developing in the Gulf of Mexico. Something's trying to develop. And eventually it kind of does what the GFS does. Brings a bunch of tropical moisture right into Florida, but it never develops into anything. Okay? What about the latest icon? Icon does want to get something. And I can only go out to about Friday mid-afternoon on the icon. But it does want to get something going down here in the Gulf of Mexico, way almost into the Bay of Campeche. Okay? What does it do after that? Well, we can look at the 12Z. Okay, here's the 12Z. 12Z just keeps spinning this around and actually bogs it back south and takes it out the picture down here. So you're thinking, why does all this energy keep just hanging out in the Gulf of Mexico? Well, the thing is there might be some sort of cold front that kind of prevents anything from really getting into the Gulf, to the Gulf states. That's a big question here. But if we look at the latest, we're going to go 1 week out on the latest 18Z GEFS ensemble. Remember, this makes up 21 runs. And, hey, I mean, there's still some stronger members in here. I know this is everywhere. You're like, dude, I can't even concentrate on all this. And I barely can either. But you got a lot of members that are kind of getting lost in the Gulf of Mexico. There's just, it looks like there's some sort of front that digs down here and keeps everything in the Gulf of Mexico. You got some members that do get kind of strong tropical storm status. Maybe a member in there that makes it to Category 1 hurricane status. But most of these are weak members. And there's basically absolutely no solid idea of what this energy is going to do in the Gulf of Mexico. There really isn't. And the same thing, you look at the EPS, which makes up 51 members, and the members are even weaker. And I would say there's barely even half the members that show something, and the ones that do just kind of drift around the Gulf of Mexico. So we need to watch it for sure. I will tell you, the sea surface temperatures are still warm. I mean, 29, 30 degrees Celsius. They're a little bit cooler now in this area that Helene went through, but they're still in the mid to upper 80s in a lot of spots, at least the mid 80s in Fahrenheit. I know this is in Celsius, but you convert that to Fahrenheit, mid 80s. So another thing you look at is the upper wind pattern. Okay, like for example, the GFS run develops that low pressure, and the upper wind pattern does support some sort of strengthening in the same area that Helene started to get its act together. And I don't have my cursor pulled up, but we've talked about this many times in breaking down Helene. This is the upper wind pattern, 35, 40,000 feet up in the air. These systems spin like this cyclonically in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And if you go on top of the storm, air is being dispersed out away from the system, especially right here. So there's a no-shear environment. This is allowing for a lot of rising air. And this would allow for something to develop right in here. But I can tell you there's definitely been a downtrend. And if we kind of look at what happens in the eastern U.S. with this system, and I'm going to look at dew points here. Big blob of tropical moisture going to come down, try to come up from the Gulf of Mexico. But we got these cold fronts that are kind of diving down. Of course, we're getting into October now. And by the way, where did fall go across the eastern U.S., the southeast too? It just seems like that it's just disappeared. I don't think we haven't had a night in the upper 50s here in South Carolina in weeks. But, these are dew points, not temperatures, and it just flirts around with the idea of some sort of front around the next week. And finally, it brings a big front down here. And this could, we are getting into October. This happens a lot. These tropical systems typically have to split some sort of gap between a cold front and a ridge to really actually come up and impact the U.S. But the cold front is something to watch, and the reason I'm looking at dew points, the cold front, because that is a great factor on where to try to find a cold front on a map here. So that's basically all I got. So to answer your question, is there another storm coming? I never can say no to that, because there's always another storm coming, right? But is there a threat? I would say that is the right question to ask. Is there a threat of another storm anytime soon? And I would say, if I had to say yes or no, I would say no. There's no threat. And I want you guys to realize that don't compare every storm to Helene. Helene was an anomaly, especially what it did inland. So, and that leads me to this. This video did not take a lot of time. It didn't need to take a lot of time. But just want to kind of speak to you guys for a couple minutes. That was a wild storm. Me and Gerald left. We left at about 6:30 in the morning, Thursday morning, and got down there pretty early, plenty of time to kind of adjust positions and figure out where we wanted to be at, where it made landfall. We decided against Perry because we wanted to be able to get out. And I've been in Perry multiple times now, and it's surrounded by just kind of different road networks where, these road networks are surrounded by pine trees. And I kind of told Gerald, I was like, I really do think Perry's going to end up getting the landfall of this. But I don't think it's smart to be in Perry. And I'm glad I made that decision. We ended up hanging out around the I-10 corridor, intercepted the eye wall. I'll be completely honest with you, the peak wind gusts were not as strong as I thought they were going to be. But one thing we did experience down there was the eye of Hurricane Helene. And let me tell you something. That is a sound that I will never get out of my head. It was just, there was this moment where we stopped on the interstate, pitch black, power was out, obviously, and the eye was going right over I-10, kind of north of Perry. And, a lot of people assume that the eye of a hurricane is just calm. This one was not. You had these, what you call mesovortices, whipping around the eye, and the winds were so erratic coming in from different directions. The clouds were just moving were so the fastest moving clouds that I've ever seen. But it was the sounds that were just something that a nightmare is made out of. It was truly a scary noise. It was just, I think me and Gerald are probably going to do a podcast about it and go much deeper into it, and just kind of share our experience with you guys. But, it sounded like an evil howling in the woods. It just sounded so unearthly. It did. And I know that this is getting a little chill down my back right now talking about it. I know that this is typical of the sounds that you hear in hurricanes, and I'm sure a lot of people that's been through hurricanes know exactly what I'm talking about, but it doesn't make it any different. And I've chased a few hurricanes, but that's the first time me and Gerald were sitting there like in the middle of the interstate, and there was nobody coming in either direction. It was pitch black, and we were just looking into it like a dark abyss and just hearing these howling winds. It was just something that you can't quite get out your head. And I remember looking at Gerald, and we kind of were thinking the same thing, and just like, dude, this is just crazy. And we were so impressed and all, but it was also just, it was just scary. It was definitely something just wild. So, after, we got home, and when we were kind of getting close to home, I think we were talking to one another. We were thinking, this storm, And that when we started talking about what we heard, and it was just like, man, that was something. But as the day or two went by, it was, you sit back and you remember what you heard with the storm, and then you kind of know what it did after that landfall, and you truly just sit there and want to call it an evil storm. It's just evil. And it proceeded to go right through Georgia, tear up Georgia, destroyed Augusta, Georgia, all the communities between the Georgia-Florida line to the South Carolina Georgia line. It catastrophic damage in the North Carolina mountains. Awful stuff in Tennessee and North Carolina and surrounding states. And truly just something that, I just took something different out of it. I don't know how to explain it. It just definitely was just a feeling that had a negative aura around it. The storm was just pure evil. I think it's changed my perspective with chasing. I think that if I know a storm is going to negatively impact my own state, even if it's riding up through the Gulf, I think I will stay in my own state, do what I can to make a difference. But just approach some things differently. I did have a coworker that got killed on the way from Florence to Columbia Friday. Hit a tree and he got killed. I got two other coworkers where their houses, one house was split in half by a tree in Augusta, and then one just is leaning, it's just sitting on his house right now. And you just look around and it puts things in perspective. I have two giant oak trees right here to my left in my backyard, and they could have easily fell on my house, and they didn't. They did not. So, just been a very sad feeling the last couple of days. So appreciate y'all understanding. Been wanting to make a video for the last couple of days. It's not because it's the reason of me not making a video is not necessarily because I've been down, but it's also, I just haven't had the internet. And I didn't tell you guys, but I've told you a little bit. My wife was sick also. She was sick, and she's just now getting better. So she got a little infection, but antibiotics are kicking in. She's feeling just about 100% now this evening. So thank you for all the prayers. Thank you for everything. I know that that just took up about 6-7 minutes, but just want to kind of talk to you guys from the heart. That Helene is something I'll never forget. And I know that it's something a lot of other people will never forget also. So praying for everybody. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. And I'll talk to you in the morning if my internet's still up. God bless.